All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and we have the kit reveal for CX-2. These Lord Vader Dark Side clones are going to be a massive problem. I'm going to say it now that I think this will be the best team in the game. I just have a feeling that it is going to be a huge problem. We're going to kind of talk about that, show you the kit reveal for CX-2. There's some really big updates here. There's an update to the Omicron economy that we need to discuss. And then I think moving forward, we can start to think more and more about how to mod not just Lord Vader in particular, but CX-2 as well. This is going to be a very, very important, I think, update. This is one of the better kit reveals that I've seen in terms of the detail that they're providing. So let's give a shout out to our channel members, as always, for their continued support if you're ever interested. Link below, along with a link to our Discord server. Go check that out, guys. I really appreciate it. It just means the world. I've got the best subscribers, the best channel members in the world, and I can't thank you guys for just keeping me going when it's getting rough. So thank you guys again. Let's get into our video here, and let's talk about Lord Vader and the clones. Alright, so we're going to flip over to the screen capture here, and we've got the kit reveal for CX-2. Now, tags, support clone trooper Empire. So he's a support character. So right away, that screams speed in my opinion. He's going to want a speed set. A lot of times with our supporting cast, we normally want a speed set, and I think that makes a lot of sense here. Now, the key attributes here, again, kind of just, I'm not trying to spoil too much. Supports Lord Vader, helps take down the enemy one target at a time by inflicting Order 66. That's a very important note here of taking down one target at a time, because Lord Vader, with those damage over times, it's sort of one of these things where some teams just kind of start falling off to the dots. This is going to allow you to get some more focused damage on the field. It counters squads that dispel debuffs, like dots, and then it synergizes well with Oppo by reapplying his dramatic entrance upon every enemy defeated for an even more dramatic battle. That is huge. That reapplication of dramatic entrance, and I know they talk about it a little bit here, but I want to really make sure that you're just recognizing the full, situation there. 25% offense, deal bonus true damage equal to 10% of the target's max health, which can't be evaded. Gain 20% turn meter and dramatic entrance for 2 turns if this unit does. So that reapplication of dramatic entrance, that 25% offense, deal bonus true damage, that's huge. That is a massive, massive buff to this team. So I did want to make sure that we at least went back to that real quick here. Inspiration, again, just coming from the Bad Batch, he inflicts disarm, heavily relies on stealth, and again, they'll kind of talk through that here. So strategy tips. It's optimal to commit and target the same enemy until they are defeated. That is, again, I feel like that's kind of standard, but there are some teams that like to spread it out. This one's not. With CX-2, applying Order 66 lets all Empire allies ignore taunt on that target, which will be instrumental in taking down the most dangerous enemy quickly. That is a really, really big change for Lord Vader of being able to ignore taunt. That is one of the worst parts of his kit, is that he can't ignore taunt. This will allow that to change. Using CX-2's special ability whenever possible is important to maximize damage. And in 3v3 GAC with his Omicron, CX-2 is untargetable while Oppo is active, which is hard to take down when with Lord Vader. So again, just going back to our game here. Give me 1 second. Let's pull that up. So if we go back to the game here, just as a reminder, Oppo, when he has Coruscant Commander, this character can't be defeated if there's an active Lord Vader. So, active ally Lord Vader. Now, the one thing we need to recognize here is that while he's untargetable, that does not mean he's immune to being defeated. It just means you can't actively target him, but AoE damage can potentially kill this guy. So think of somebody like Bane, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, a Leia ultimate, Adrad's ultimate, Adrad's unique, those AoE attacks are still going to be able to hit this guy. So one thing I want you just to think through there is you don't want him to be super squishy, because if an AoE attack takes him out, that's not going to get stopped here. So I want to scroll right down here to this real quick, the FAQ section, and this is the most important thing. Did I hear 3v3 and 5v5 Omicrons cost less? Yes, they have reduced the cost of these from 20 to 10, and any currently applied Omicrons that are only for 3v3 or 5v5 will give back the appropriate amount of Omicrons. That is a massive change. This is, again, round of applause for Capital Games here. Round of applause. That is awesome. Because one of the biggest problems I've had was, why would I spend a 3v3 GAC Omicron when I can only use it half the time and it costs just as much as one that works in 5v5 and 3v3? I really like this change. I think it's going to encourage players to interact with Omicrons outside of 3v3, outside of just 5v5, and it's going to interact more with 3v3. The other thing I will say here is this does open up the door that one of Lord Vader's other clone troopers could get one for 5v5. Again, not 100% certain on that, or maybe they just recognize in 3v3 this team needs a little bit more help than it does in 5v5. Remind me, what does Order 66 do again? Effective characters can't gain buffs and can't be revived, and then several abilities from Darkside clones take advantage of this. Now, he's going to be a Marquee unit, and this is another thing I got to give them credit for. We liked having Oppo and CX-2 with Lord Vader, and then the other two with Tarkin. That is a really, really important note. One of the biggest complaints I had when they were releasing, if we go back to the Marquee release schedule here, particularly around the Ahsoka characters, was you got Night Trooper, then Morgan, then Death Trooper Peridia. Then we got Enoch, and then we got Great Mothers. And it's particularly Morgan and even Night Trooper to a degree that kind of pissed me off, that you didn't really have the full potential to utilize these characters because of the way they were released. Like, I think it would have been better to go Great Mothers, Morgan, Night Trooper, Death Trooper, and then Enoch last, because the Night Trooper, Death Trooper can be used as remnants, they could be used as Night Sisters. I just felt like this release schedule was kind of haphazard. I don't know that it was as well thought out, in my personal opinion, compared to here where they're like, hey, the two that you're going to use with Lord Vader are in the game now. That's great. I'm really excited about that. Can Fennec still counter them? Fennec should no longer be able to counter Lord Vader with these units. This sentence here is one of the most important I've ever seen. If a scenario occurs where she can still manage a win, we will intervene. They have flat out said right here, we will intervene. They are not going to let Fennec counter Lord Vader anymore. They are done with that. I think it has been, in my opinion, Lord Vader and Fennec's relationship has been a thorn in their side since day one. I think it's actually, to them, it's almost an embarrassment at times of how consistent that counter was. I feel they've done a lot with certain datacrons to try and make that counter a lot less, what's the wording here? Consistent. And they're just flat out saying, yeah, we're going to intervene if this is still working. So that's a big change because there's not a ton of uses for Fennec currently with outside of the Lord Vader thing. Again, there's the Boba Fett sign, a Django focus DC to maybe beat some other stuff. But this is huge. Like, they're flat out saying, we will make sure that does not happen. Then finally, his Omicron states, whenever any stacks of damage over time are dispelled on the enemy, they gain a stack of damage over time, which can't be dispelled, evaded, or resisted until the end of battle. How many stacks get reapplied? This is an important note here. When dots are dispelled, one will reapply in their place. So if you dispel 5 dots on a character, they will regain 1 dot. This helps prevent enemies from gaining turn meter due to Lord Vader's unique. So you're not going to get a 1-for-1 where if you dispel 10 dots, you're going to get 10 of these ones that are undispellable. There's just going to be 1 in its place, which again stops the turn meter. And that's a big deal here because you think how many counters are reliant on dispelling those damage over times and then running a turn meter train on Lord Vader. There's a lot of teams that do that. So now we get to the abilities. Basic, Infiltrate, and Extract. Deal physical damage and inflict speed down for 2 turns. On CX-2 on his turn, if the target enemy has first order, or has order 66, Empire allies gain 10% turn meter and recover 10% health. If CX-2 was stealth, recover an additional 10% health. CX-2 stealths for 1 turn. So right there, going under stealth, that's never a fun situation, right? Never a fun situation. And again, the extra health recovery there is huge. Next, instruments of the Empire, cooldown of 3. Deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict them with disarm for 2 turns or until CX-2 is defeated and remove it from all other enemies. which can't be copied, dispelled, evaded, or resisted. Inflict target enemy with vulnerable for 2 turns. Empire allies gain bonuses based on their rolls, and if there's an active Lord Vader ally, he gains all of these bonuses. Attackers gain offense up. Healers and supports gain speed up, and tanks gain bonus protection. Bonus protection, remember, is the interaction that like Basilishan Fallen has, that Enfys Nest has. That cannot be dispelled. That's not a buff. It's bonus protection. It just goes over top of it. So that is a really important note there, because there are certain teams, like think of Boba Fett, where when there's protection up on Lord Vader, he could one-shot him. This is bonus protection, so it's not going to be a buff. It's not going to be something that you can dispel. It is just going to sit there on that character, and you're going to have to chew through it in order to kill him. Next is unique. You chose the wrong side. This has a Zeta and an Omicron. Whenever an enemy dispels a debuff, all Empire allies gain 10% bonus protection until the end of the encounter. So that's pretty significant. And again, the 10% until... The only question I have here is that stacking? Because normally they'll say stacking. I don't know if this is a stacking bonus protection or it's just 10%. I will be curious how that... Truthfully, I'm very curious how that works. And just to show you what I mean by that here, if I was to go to, say, Enfys Nest, and again, that's why I would like that to be confirmed by somebody here, is that, see how it says bonus protection stacking? So, I don't know if this is stacking bonus protection. My gut says no, because it's not explicitly stated. So it is nice, but it's not going to ramp through the end of battle. At the start of battle, if Oppo is an ally, all Empire allies can ignore taunt effects to target enemies inflicted with Order 66 and gain instant defeat immunity until the end of battle. Or CX-2 is defeated, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. So that is a very, very different change. Other times it's alright, you gain it for 2 turns or whatever, or until you, this is until the end of battle, while he's active, instant defeat immunity. That would stop your Commander Tano Force Leap. Jabba's Rancor, that is instant defeat is a big part of certain kits. This is huge for that. That is a very, very big part of this kit. If all allies gain dramatic entrance at the start of the encounter, all allies gain dramatic entrance for 2 turns whenever an enemy unit is defeated. So, again, the situation here is that if you don't run Lord Vader with all dark side clones, you're not going to get the dramatic entrance for 2 turns whenever a unit's defeated. And again, they talk about what dramatic entrance is again. While in 3v3 Grand Arena, Empire allies gain 100% max health. Now, here's an interesting thing that we need to kind of understand, is that a lot of us mod Lord Vader for protection, right? The way that we mod Lord Vader is for protection. Now, Lord Vader's kit says, hey, they gain max health doubled for this. At the start of battle, Force users lose all that much protection and gain that much max health. My question here is the order of operations. If the order of operations says Lord Vader's leadership takes precedent over this unique ability, then this is insane. If this takes precedence first, if they gain 100% max health and then we convert everything, we might want to remod Lord Vader. And I'm just going to show an example here real quick of what I mean. Is if I go down to my Leia Organa set where she's got a lot of max health instead of protection. So here I'm losing, about 30,000 hit points, right? We're going 177 to 123 compared to, 320. So we're at 290, maybe, 20,000 hit points, give or take. So we're getting much more max health here. In this instance, right, I'm gaining an extra 50,000 hit points from that 100% max health. So we are going to have to see that could potentially change the way you mod Lord Vader for health or protection, depending on, oops, I guess I wasn't showing that. Or maybe I was, hold on. Was I showing that? Go down to Leia Organa here. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. So again, see here, this is what I was talking about. That depending on how we mod Lord Vader, the order of operations for this ability could be very, very different. So we are going to have to make sure that we're taking that into account here. I'm sure somebody will tell us, but that's a big thing because Lord Vader's mods for a lot of us are very, very specific. They've been really well designed. And that could also mean the way that you mod the rest of the clones. They want max health, another change. So just kind of keep this in the back of your head that depending on how that order of operations works, we could potentially want to mod them differently. And again, now that would only be for 3v3 GAC, so, you know, there's a bit of that. And then it goes on to say, if all allies at the start of battle are dark side clones, all allies gain 50% offense. The first time they fall below 50% health, they recover 100% health and gain 30% bonus protection for 2 turns. Whenever any stacks of damage over time are dispelled on that enemy, they gain a stack which can't be dispelled until the end of battle. If Oppo's active, CX-2 is immune to taunt effects and can't be targeted during enemy turns. So that right there, that's the big one, right? Unique to Focused and Determined. At the start of battle, CX-2 gains 10% max health and offense for each other Empire ally at the start of the encounter. At the start of each encounter, CX-2 stealths for 2 turns. Recognize here each other Empire ally. So this could be a max of 40% in 5v5, 20% in 3v3. Whenever CX-2 uses an ability against the same target enemy that he did in the previous turn, he gains 50% critical chance and potency, stacking to 100, and all Empire allies recover 15% max health and protection until he uses an ability on his turn against a different target. Whenever CX-2 uses an ability against the same targeted enemy 3 times in a row, inflict order 66 for 2 turns, which can't be copied. This is awesome. This is a very good kit. I have a feeling this will be the best, if one of the best, if not the best team in the game. Where I'm really looking at here that there's some, I'd say, massive mechanics, is the ability to reapply dramatic entrance. That's going to be huge. Because again, that bonus damage, the extra offense, this is going to be a team that is going to be putting out a lot of damage. And because you have that ability with reapplying Order 66 to ignore taunt, it's going to allow you to work around some of these teams that Lord Vader would normally get stuck behind. And I think the other side of this as well is with those damage over times, hey, they get dispelled, but now you gain another one, it stops the turn meter. That's also really good. That's going to stop some of those teams like the Imperial Troopers who would go in, they would dispel all the debuffs and then run a train around Lord Vader. Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I think it's a great, great kit. Really looking forward to the other 2 clones to see how they operate, not just with Lord Vader, but also with Tarkin, because that's going to be a big, for a lot of players now, Tarkin might be your leader here, and if this is a very good team even without Lord Vader, that could change the way a lot of you go about farming. So, let me know your thoughts on this kit down below. Please like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.